AITA for backing out of an agreement I never made. 2 months ago my dad, 54M, approached me with an opportunity to buy a female Labrador puppy from his friend, let's call him Joe, who shows and breeds pedigree Labradors. According to my dad, Joe was offering me the Labrador puppy for a heavily discounted rate, $80, because I was his friend's daughter. Nothing else was mentioned to me about why the puppy was so cheap, but I assumed my dad's friend Joe was just being generous. Looking back, I was definitely naive, but I'd been wanting a Labrador pup for a long time and the offer was just too good to pass up. That same day I drove over 2 hours to Joe's farm to collect my new 3-month-old Labrador puppy and sign the paperwork transferring the ownership of the pup to me. Joe never mentioned anything else about the terms of the sale, and I never signed any other paperwork or contract regarding further terms. I want to stress that in the period directly after the sale, neither Joe or my dad discussed with me the apparent extra terms I had supposedly agreed to. Until recently, I mentioned to my dad that I had booked Jennifer, name of pup, for her desexing next month, and my dad immediately told me I had to cancel. He went on to explain that he had agreed, on my behalf, to allow Joe to use my Labrador to breed more pups for him to sell. This is apparently why I was able to buy Jennifer for such a discounted rate. I was shocked but frankly not surprised, since my dad has a long history of neglecting to mention important details / lying by omission. As far as I'm concerned, I never agreed to these terms, so I'm not bound to them. Dad and Joe may have had a verbal agreement, but I am the legal owner of Jennifer and there was no verbal, or written, agreement between me and Joe, so I don't care. I called Joe and made it crystal clear to him that I absolutely was not planning to breed Jennifer, let alone give him the puppies to sell. He was upset, called me a few choice names, and demanded I pay back the difference between the discounted rate and the normal rate for Jennifer, since I wasn't breeding her for him. I refused because I legally own Jennifer now and the sale is over. If he wanted me to breed Jennifer, he should have talked to me about this personally, because I was the buyer, not my dad. Joe is apparently fuming. My dad is angry because he doesn't understand why it's a big deal, and other extended family members who know Joe think I'm being a bitch and should at least pay him back the difference. But I honestly just don't feel like I'm obligated to. It's their fault, especially Joe, for not mentioning these extra terms to me before the sale. He's the seller and he should know better when conducting his business. Also, according to the agreement, I would have to breed Jennifer whenever Joe wanted, so I'm guessing non-stop. Plus Joe would not have to pay for Jennifer's medical expenses when pregnant, and that would all come out of my pocket. Hard pass. NTA. In addition to this not being your legal obligation, and the medicinal fees for your dog, I assume that this would also include taking care of her puppies. From my understanding, puppies aren't to leave their mom's side for 3 months after birth. So essentially you'd have 2 options: giving your dog back to him for months every time she gives birth, or taking care of puppies for 3 months each time, or traumatizing the puppies by separating them before they're ready. Did your dad and Joe talk about that part? I'm with you, hard pass. Yes, the female dog owners have all the responsibility. There's additional vet costs, puppy food. Us puppies are a mess, large breeds like this in particular. So much laundry and cleaning and space is needed. If the pup leaves early, they usually end up with issues later. They learn how to dog from the mom and siblings. It's a big commitment. This guy sounds super sketchy. NTA. NTA, the dog is your dog, and you do not owe anyone anything. You are absolutely correct that if the terms of the sale included making the dog available for breeding, that the transfer of ownership paperwork needed to include that information. It didn't, and nothing else was signed. There isn't shit anyone can do, legally. Do be careful though, because I wouldn't put it past a scorned vibe, and frankly, that's what he sounds like with this attempt to force you to breed dogs for him, to steal your dog. Make sure that she's never outside alone, be careful at dog parks, be sure she's chipped, and be clear with any groomers, daycare or boarding centers that you and only you are to pick up your dog. NTA. Have your dad pay the difference, as he was the one who deliberately lied by omission. NTA. That's on Joe's dumbass for not mentioning such a huge detail to you. Deleted. AITA for telling my children that if they don't grow up and get real jobs, they aren't getting a penny from me when I die, and then giving them a reality check. Throw array. I'm not dying. TL/doctor, my kids thought they'd get my savings when I die. I told them no, then lectured them. I, 57M, have 2 kids, N30M and a 27F. N works part-time flipping burgers, but insists his real job is as a gaming streamer. Claims she's a professional influencer, her livelihood supported by her BF. My kids are adults. What they do with their lives is their choice. We've had several arguments about it, but ultimately, as adults, the responsibility for their lives is their own. Over Christmas, we were talking about their mother, on Zoom, when A brought up the subject of her will, wondering if she'd left anything to them. I confessed that she passed before ever writing one, and the money she did have was used up the year she passed. We were a dual income family in a time when neither of us were making a lot. It was a hard time. Eventually, I joined a friend in the private sector and my fortune changed. I'm not rich, but I'll never be uncomfortable again. Well, and then decided to lighten the mood by implying that I'll make up for it when I pass. I asked him what he meant, and the conversation went as followed. Me, what do you mean? N, well, you have a lot of money, right? It'll go to us. Me, and who told you that? A, what do you mean? Me, I've made it very clear that I don't approve of the way you both live. You both chose not to get an education or real jobs. You have no way of supporting yourself. I often buy them groceries. You refuse to help yourselves, so why would I enable your lifestyles by leaving you my savings when I die? You want my money, then grow up and get real jobs, but the bank of dad will be forever closed when dad is forever closed. What followed was a heated argument where both N and A accused me of being manipulative and unsupportive, so I got real with them. Me, you both refused to grow up. Flipping burgers is an honorable job, but it's not going to keep a roof over your head. What if you have kids? What if you get fired? And, A, what will you do if your boyfriend breaks up with you because all you do is sit on your ass all day and take photos of yourself? You want to do that? Find a modeling agency. A real job. You both speak of chasing your dreams, but neither one of you are in any position to do that because neither of you wants to take responsibility for yourselves right now. I've said it a million times. You're adults. What you do with your lives is your choice and your responsibility. Dreams take money, and neither of you have that. Grow up, get a job. A real job, and chase your dreams. I'm not going to leave a penny to either of you if your life plan is to get by until I die, then coast through the rest of your lives off the earnings of my hard work. And ended the call after a prolonged silence. A called me and R then did the same. I haven't heard from either since, and neither will take my calls. So, AITA here? I think I might be because I was unnecessarily harsh on Christmas. Edit, some of the feedback coming at me is because I'm critical of their jobs. To be clear, a job is something that you make money from. Either earn any money as a streamer or influencer. And I defend my opinion of flipping burgers. It's an honorable job, but not a career if you're doing it part-time like my son, thus making him ineligible for promotion. If he were working it full-time, I would be worried, but I'd know he's taking responsibility for his life. Edit 2, this conversation has come up a lot during the pandemic. My son was laid off, and my daughter isn't working, but both have been speaking a lot about their jobs as a streamer and influencer while bringing in no money to show for it. We've argued about it a lot and it just came to a head when they brought up my will. You are only 57. Jesus, you could potentially live for 30 to 40 more years. What was their plan? To live in poverty until their 60s or 70s? And what if you need expensive medical care later on or care services in your old age that wipes out your retirement money? Not only are they entitled as hell, but they have no idea how the world works or how to realistically plan for the future. NTA. Plot twist. Marry me. 56F. Kids grown and out to house. Available. NTA. It's troubling that their current savings plan is your demise. NTA. And I like you, because you didn't say something like flipping burgers isn't a real job, but you did point out the reality that flipping burgers doesn't get the bills paid, especially for a family and especially part-time. You also pointed out to your daughter that if she wants to make a job as an influencer, then work towards a more realistic job as a model. You're not knocking what they like in life, you're showing them that how they are going about it isn't sustainable and that relying on your death isn't going to solve their money problems late. Also, that's morbid and terrible. Reality's harsh. You gave them a hard check. Doesn't matter that it was on Christmas. If anything, your kids are the assholes for assuming your money is theirs and asking if their mother left them money on Christmas. NTA, it's your money, do as please. I have friends who stream and make a little money from it, but it's clearly only a side hustle. Getting big enough to support yourself on streaming or as influencer is incredibly unstable. What if you get banned from the platform? Streamers/YouTubers/influencer is extremely volatile market, and an audience you built over years can disappear overnight. At minimum, it's smart to have a reliable skill to fall back on. AITA for blowing up on my wife for spending $8K on a motorcycle for my stepson. I have been with my wife for over 6 years. I have a 17-year-old stepson and a biological 22-year-old son. The family had ups and downs just like any other family. My son is getting married in February. I have put some money aside to help him out as a gift from me for his wedding. I've already talked to him about it and he and his fiancée said they appreciate it very much. My son deserves it because before his mom died he took over her care and spent nights at the hospital with her. He cried many times because his mother's death broke him. I'm glad he found happiness again. My stepson is a motorcyclist / it started off as a hobby. He has posters of all kinds of motorcycles, pictures of famous racers and motorcyclists. He has a group of friends he calls brothers and they ride together and wear some kind of bracelets that represent the group. He always does 3D arts and logos, which I find stunning, to be honest. He's talented, no question about it. Anyway, before Christmas his mom told me she wanted to get him a motorcycle as a Christmas gift and he'd love it so much. Told her I can't afford it and that maybe she should think of another gift for him. Everything was fine until Christmas Day while we were exchanging gifts. My stepson received a small box from my wife that had a key in it. We were confused. She told him to go outside and we all followed, and then I saw a brand new motorcycle in the driveway. I started wondering where she got the money. I didn't bring it up right there and then. I waited a bit. I asked my wife and she told me that she took $8K from the account to buy the motorcycle. I effing lost it. I blew up on her and asked if she was kidding me. $8K, that's the money I put aside for my son's wedding. She said that I needed to calm down, but the money was already gone. My son showed up and asked what was wrong. Couldn't tell him his stepmom took the money that was meant for him to buy an expensive motorcycle that I'm sure my stepson will throw in the garage just like he did the old ones in a very short time. So far he had 2 motorcycles that ended up being damaged. Those motorcycles cost us so much money other than paying for spares and parts that needed repairing. I told my wife she has 2 days to return the motorcycle and get the money back, and she defended herself saying she can't do that because it'd be devastating for my stepson and that he'll resent me if he knew I made her return the motorcycle. I told her that I was ready to talk to him and explain if that's what it takes, and she started crying saying I was okay with my stepson's spirit crushing like that. I told her it was her fault for taking money in the first place without telling me. She went upstairs and stayed there the entire night. I haven't even talked to my son yet and it's so exhausting since my wife says I'm being cruel to my stepson. Problem is she says my stepson will resent me if I return the motorcycle.